Well, welcome to day 4 of a series of interviews in Cyber Week Scotland. And today we have Jenny Radcliffe. Now, she's a burglar for hire, a professional con artist, an expert in nonverbal communications, deceptions, and persuasion techniques. Now, that's a whole lot of things. Hi, Jenny. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Hiya.
I'm very good. So, you're quite famous. So,
Oh, well, I don't know about that. I mean, I
okay.
think I think I get around a bit these days just because we're all online, kind of. I wouldn't say I was
Right.
famous.
Okay, so now the process that we all gone through when you're working through cybersecurity and everything, or information security and so on, is that a big part of the thing that we're trying to do is to try and influence people, trying to get around things and just trying to do things that we could try and measure how good security shores up against what they already know. So we will be talking about things like psychology, linguistics, and so on. So
Hmm.
now, if you could just tell us briefly about the kind of things you do, and how it measures up and so on, and then we'll just kick it off from there.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I suppose the short title is social engineering, which is working with people as opposed to tech, because I'm pretty rubbish with tech, and I was never really taught to do it. Um, and plenty of people went and went on to be great at it, but I stuck with the people and working with people's brains, and that's why you see me sometimes, I'm the people hacker on Twitter and things, and I mean I think what you're saying is true. A lot of the time, what we're trying to do in any business capacity, and that includes security and everything we try and achieve, is bring people around to our way of thinking. And social engineering really is all about using persuasion and influence techniques. I mean, manipulation, if we were doing it from a malicious perspective. But it's all of those things just to bring someone to your way of thinking. And for me, ethical social engineer, physical pen tester, we are trying to persuade people to let us into buildings or give us information that lets us into their system that maybe they shouldn't do, if we were genuine bad guys, as opposed to just doing it for educational purposes. So that, in a nutshell, is really what we do.
Okay. So trying to see how you can influence people, but it goes quite a long way beyond there, in information security at the moment, because currently we are on an education process to say,
Hmm.
hey, these are the things you're supposed to be looking out for, and so on. But that's only just one aspect of all of this. There's a much bigger aspect that we, as information security professionals, need to do, and that is we sit in a lot of meetings, right?
Hmm.
So we need to be able to articulate ourselves in terms of being able to say the right thing, being able
Yeah.
to say it in a way that people understand and agree with you, in that. If we have to write a report or on something, or give an overview of something, that we have to present it in such a way that you actually sound believable. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of this is part of the social engineering skills that we all need to have. Um, is that something you teach? Is it something that you try and promote to other folks?
Yeah, I think one of the things that my more technical colleagues sometimes have had a gap in their education really is that when we're focused so much on a practical element, like a coding language or like ethical hacking or something like that, sometimes a lot of it's kind of in front of the screen or with our sort of our own little group, and then when we do have to go into the business and sell an opinion or like you say, present a report or even get on a stage and speak to people, which is something that happens a lot in infosec and something that people want to do, we sort of never really been taught how to do it. And in the same way that we need to learn coding languages or technical languages or foreign languages, we also have to learn communication skills and higher level skills in order to really be confident and to sell ourselves and express ourselves clearly. And I don't see a gap, I don't see a lot of that in the industry. And funnily enough, it's coming up more and more when people speak to me, because as a social engineer, those are so key to what I do. So I have to be able to communicate clearly and to different people in different ways, and there's a big part of that is looking at someone and saying, is this person someone who likes details? So a lot of people in the technical space are details driven, and that big picture is quite a difficult thing for them to see. So it's whether do we go to details and grab their attention and go to the bigger picture first, and it's really working out how we present in all those different ways, whether that's in the boardroom or on a stage, or trying to convince the business for budget or resources for projects. So, I mean, we teach it a little bit at Human Factor Security. We've got lots of programs coming out sort of in 2021 going into next year about it. But it's something that has to happen sort of to a certain extent on the job, because you learn when we get it wrong, and nobody starts out perfect. So, yeah, it's very important, I think.
Yeah. So because we interact with each other so much nowadays, so it's it's not just a phone call now. From 2020 onwards, it's more and more video calls. It's more and more very interactive, and and as even when we look back to 2019 and so on, I very rarely did a Skype call. Very rarely. Doing a video call every day, it was like, what? But now it's like, well, we're on.
Well, nobody uses a phone anymore.
Exactly.
It's always a video. Yeah.
Well, oh, you mean the Twitter device?
Well, absolutely right. But I mean, when was the last time any of us just took an audio call? It's so rare. Yeah. And even with the video, but it's interesting that you say, because even with video calls, I had a call with a lady yesterday, and she scheduled the call and everything. It was a Teams call. But when I turned the camera on, I said, "Oh, I can't see you." She went, "Oh," and I had to say, "Oh God," because she knew that. And I was like, "It's fine. Your voice is fine." She's like, "No." She said, "It's just I hate being on camera."
Mm-hmm.
And this is the thing, some of us are more comfortable with that than others. And there are people who they might be neurodivergent, or they might be just not the personality that really enjoys being looked at all the time. I mean, I have to get up. I have to look respectable. I can't take calls in my pajamas anymore. I have to get dressed. It's a stress and it's a change. But unfortunately, that this is the way it's going to go. I think that's what we've got to expect going forward.
Okay, so basically we have to sort of relax and just know that I may be called on to be on a video call. Yes. Now, if you had said that to me a year ago, I would have been absolutely terrified, because I'm a very shy and withdrawn person. Right? So, nah, not really. But the thing is,
but you can empathize with people who are.
Oh yes, absolutely. And one of the major things that I had as a young kid, I had a very severe speech impediment. I stuttered, and I could not speak, and I had to go through lots of speech therapy. So I learned how to speak, how to even just get sentences out and so on, and just calm down, relax, and take your time and get the thing out. And I think nowadays, with all of this going on about being on a call, a live video call, is stressful, and I think we all need to take time out to say, okay, this is going to happen all the time. How am I going to go through this? So, and into folks entering a new InfoSec career, this is going to be a thing that they're going to do a lot.
I mean, I can tell you something about this, because it's a little bit like learning to give presentations.
Okay.
Right? And so I have advice on it, because what I say to people is, no matter what, almost regardless of what you do, people are only noticing a little bit of it, right? We're in our own little space. And you don't have to be sort of Martin Luther King in terms of how brilliant your speech needs to be. And you don't need to be the best kind of presenter in the world and most entertaining. You just have to get through it, really. And just to give you a story on this type of thing, you know, I do a live talk show, an internet talk show on a Tuesday, right, for Tice Talk it's called. And 2 weeks ago, there was I have my panel, and one of the panel, his name, it was Dennis see, I'm gonna get it wrong, Honor Ohu, right? Or Onu Uha, or something like that. I'm getting it wrong now. And it was just quite a difficult thing to pronounce, right? And I was really obsessed. Honor Ohu, right? I was a little bit obsessed with not getting this wrong live, right? So I'm practicing it all afternoon. Honor Ohu, Honor Ohu. And then when we went, and then the other 4 people on the panel are perfectly like names that weren't so difficult to remember. So there was a guy called T. Patel, and there was a lady called Daniela Scales, right? So I have to remember. Oh, and Dave Sifley. I can't leave the last one out. Dave Sifley. So I normally have them all written out, and I write out the names lexically, phonetically, so that I can say it if it's a tricky, if it's a name that's not, you know, an English name, or I know I'm going to stumble over it. And that piece of paper had floated to the floor. So I said, hello, welcome. This is live, right? Hello, welcome, and welcome Dennis Honor Ohu. And then went, and forgot everyone else's name because I've been so obsessed on that one. Now, how much does it matter? Well, I give lots of interviews and I do the show. But it matters, you know, it threw me for a little bit. Everyone's very forgiving of it. No one's going to hold things like that against you. And I carried on and I finished the show and people said they enjoyed it. I think about it now, for someone who makes a lot of my living is public speaking and giving presentations and giving reports. And to be, you know, and I've done that for 25 years or more. And even I still can make a mistake that seems so simple. So it's not something to really get too worried about. Everyone's very helpful, forgiving. People don't want to see you, drown. So don't worry, is my point.
Yeah. You know, and I think a lot of folks, especially some of the younger folks, that when they start the interaction, you know, it's, how can I put it, are quite guarded about things. They're not used to speaking to a lot of people all the time. So, and if it's not a message I can send via text and everything else, so I've got two daughters, so I kind of know about this kind of thing. I hope, but even like things like dinner's ready, you have to send a message. So, but the thing that I'm trying to get to is that these are all sort of skills that we need to keep practicing, and you know, and it's like these things are going to come up, and you know, and we have to progress through them. So one of the things that we have to try and things to improve ourselves as such, you know, is confidence. How big a thing do you think confidence is, of just being able to go out and try it, as opposed to, nope, I'm not speaking in front of anybody, or nope, I'm not going to be on camera. How big a thing is in confidence? So, and things, how can you build on that?
So what I would say, I will tell you what I say at the start. I teach advanced negotiation skills, right?
Okay.
And at the beginning of day one, I say, what does everyone think makes a good negotiator? And people say confidence. And then I say, well, define it. What does confidence mean? And they have a think. And of course, it's true. You know, if you're a confident person, if you're confident speaking in public, and if you're confident in front of people, that's an advantage. But if you have someone who doesn't have any of those attributes, who's quite shy, the way that they can make up that gap is to prepare. And someone who's prepared well will give a confident person a run for their money in a negotiation table, just by nature of the preparation, right?
Okay.
So confidence, really, some people are more confident than others, and we're all more or less confident in different situations. But the thing that absolutely makes up the slack is preparing what you're going to say. So you do your research, and it's true in social engineering. I know everything about my target by the time I go into a social engineering engagement. I know, who's in charge, names. I know the layout of the building as best we can, because then when I have to think on my feet, I'm not, there isn't a gap in my knowledge that I could have filled. All right, and
Okay.
if there was, it's not because we haven't tried. So what I would say to people is, know what you're gonna know, how you're gonna open any type sort of talk or comment or speech, if you like. Know your first bit quite well, because if you can get the first kind of 30 seconds, don't like overly rehearse it so you sound like a robot, but know that first kind of opening 30 seconds or so, and know where you go, how you're going to end, and then you've got that kind of destination point. You know what you're going to say at the end, and you've opened it well, and that'll relax you. But you can only do those things if you plan. I gave a talk in Liverpool a few years ago, and it's a 5 minute talk, right? And it's 20 slides, and they advance
Wow.
automatically, right? So you've got no control over how they advance. It's 5 minutes. 5 minutes for a speaker is a very difficult time slot because there's no room for filler. If
Okay.
someone else is advancing the slides, you have to get it absolute. You have to get your timing right and everything. And it's tough. And I do it as a professional speaker to test myself, right? And I did my talk, and it's online. You'll see it. It's on YouTube. It's called How Liverpool Made Me. I think they said a human hacker. So How Liverpool Made Me a Human Hacker. And I time it very well, and I'm pleased with myself. Now, how did I do it? That topic I've spoken about 1,000 times, Carrie. 1,000 times. That material I know backwards. Did I rehearse it? Over and over and over again for that 5 minute slot. So I know when I say it, I know what slides come in. I know the next thing. Because if you want to look professional, you need to prepare. And from a social engineering point of view, from everything that we do, my teams and me, when we go in, we have over prepared. We have A, B, C, D. And there's a lot of things out there that kind of give the impression that this is something that can be done easily. You can tailgate, you can hold some donuts and open a door. Well, that
Uh-huh.
might work, but that's not a strategy. Your strategy for confidence is preparation,
Okay.
100%.
Yeah. So I mean, there's the basic skills that you have, and to say, right, this is the plan. But we all know plans go awry. Things don't often work out as best they could. So
Exactly.
and then you have to, like as you say, think on your feet and move on. And which kind of brings me to the sort of the next thing that often happens is conflict resolution. Things go
Mm-hmm.
wrong. Suddenly the tables are turned on you because you. It doesn't seem like you're no longer in charge of the situation because somebody's now in your space and taking that over. Have you got like stories on or advice on or examples on when those things kind of happened? And I take it the main thing is not to panic.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as a social engineer inside a building, there are times when we're stopped, and how do you deal with someone challenging you? So that is direct conflict. Never mind in a boardroom or anything. I can talk about this. And what I'd say, I mean, it's okay to say don't panic, and you're right. But if you panic, you panic. I mean, we have no control. We have very little control over our emotions. And again, at the risk of repeating myself, the more preparation that you do, the more you think about what you would do in that scenario, the easier it is to kind of get your brain back on clock and start thinking sort of clearly. And also, of course, the more preparation you do, the less likely you're going to run into that problem. But it does happen. Conflict resolution, it's difficult because it's always contextual. So, in what sense, some things are different than others. But I would say if you don't want to provoke arguments, try not to give people something to push back against. Okay, so like for example, if we're stopped by a security guard, I mean, I was stopped by a security guard actually not too long ago, just before COVID, um, and there was like, "Are you meant to be here?" And I said, "I don't think I am. I think you're right." And he's saying to me, "I think you're right. I think you're right. I don't think I am meant to be here. I thought I could." And I'm not giving them any. I'm not arguing. I'm not giving them anything to push against. "Do you think you could show me another way to get to?" said the name of the guy's office. "I really need to speak to him." Yeah, but why are you here? Honestly, I don't even know. And so one way when it's direct is not to give someone, anything to kind of push back against, to kind of relax a little bit and just remember that that's an individual. And a real trick, a psychological trick to avoid conflict, is to think about something we call pursuit and avoidance, so that everybody is looking for something as a goal, even short term. So you and me now, our goal is to have this interview and to get to the end of it, right? Preferably without technical hitches or me forgetting anyone's name. Um, and people have got short-term, medium, long-term goals. What you need to try and do is work out what that person's goal is. Why are they saying what they're saying? Why are they stopping you? All of those things. And then what would they like to avoid in this situation? So maybe they don't want to, be accused of not doing their job, or maybe they don't want to misunderstand you. And when we look at that, we're really working what a person's like. And once you can really work out what someone wants and what someone's trying to avoid, it's easy to work with that person. So, it's a long answer, but it's probably a good one with conflict.
Yeah, and and I think probably it will take a lot of practice as well. Practice makes perfect in all of these things, because very often we may get an angry customer phoning up, and and we may be on a help desk or something, and as you say, just trying to figure out what it is that they are wanting to achieve out of the phone call. Is it something that they need fixed? Is it something that you can do something about? And also not promising them something that they're going to be holding you responsible for. So,
well, in that situation, there is actually a fairly simple model that I could talk to you about.
Okay.
That actually helps, and it's a rapport building model, but it helps a lot in help desk situations. And we teach it. We have a program called SEAT, which is Social Engineering Awareness, and we teach help desks and social engineers how to do it. And the acronym is SPICE. Okay, so SPICE. So the S is, and it's less applicable in the help desk situation, but in general rapport, is that we make some small talk. So you talk about the weather, the match, the traffic, the TV, the situation. So in other words, we don't go straight in with the business. And that kind of relaxes people. We call it phatic speech. So it's not emphatic speech, it's phatic. It means it's nothing really. It's just, but it puts everyone at their ease. And people get used to things like the volume of people's voices, but also what they see is the mood, the general pace, which is the P. So S for small talk, P for pace. What pace is someone operating at? Is this someone with a lot of energy that goes very quickly? Or is it someone who's more laid back? And what we do is we match that pace, right? So if you can imagine, if you were, think about the help desk scenario you've just given me. Imagine if you worked at a hotel reception and someone came in and they were all, all disheveled and they had no suitcases and they clearly had the journey from hell. And they come in, they say, I wish to make a complaint, right? And what you don't do is go, good evening, how are you? Right? What you do is you match it, you match their pace a little bit, right? Or you certainly don't mismatch their pace, so that they're leading the energy, they're leading the mood, okay? And you're looking to just establish that we understand, it's sort of non-verbal, I understand your feeling here, so I'm not going to go quicker than you. I'm not going to go slower and try and slow you down. And then we talk about the I, so it's more about you than them, okay? So I as opposed to sorry, it's them as opposed to you. So we go for I, right? So it's not about you. It's not about the I. It just fits into SPICE quite easily. So now what we go is like, now I'm interested more in you than in me. So now I want to know everything about you and why you're feeling that way and how I can help you. And so that involves active listening. So put your own feelings to one side and let them come at you with all that information. And then all you really have to do on the health test once you have that, and I really do mean this works very well in most situations, is you've listened, you tell them you understand, find some common ground and express empathy. Common ground C, empathy E, okay? So now it's like, that must be awful. I can't imagine in the middle of all of this how miserable that must be. Let me see if I can help you. So some small talk, pace their mood, more about them than you, so no I, some common ground and some empathy. And that's the SPICE rapport model. Get that in, and people have got nothing to push against. You're giving them everything. You're giving them the floor. You're telling them you understand. you empathize with their situation, and now you can help. And that's a really good model to get someone on side.
Oh wow, okay, that's
comedy gold there.
Yes.
I don't normally publish that one. Normally, Kerry, you'd be paying a lot of money for me to teach you that, but there you go, Cyber Week Scotland.
Yeah.
Cyber Scotland Week.
No, but that is really fantastic. That to know that there are ways that we can address these kind of things. Ways we can actually say, right, what will be the best way we can go about it, and yeah, we can work on those kind of skills, and those skills will come and they will pay off dividends in the future. So,
but also that there's a tool, that there's a formula. That's what's helpful to people. That it's not like something you just acquire, from the ether. There's a tool.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So it's something that you have to practice all the time.
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. Yeah. Now, talk about practicing stuff and so on. And a lot of people have asked me during this week, when you say stuff, what do you mean by stuff?
Okay.
Well, it's all those kind of things that don't really fit in a box. It's all those kind of extra skills that it comes in handy to do a particular job or to do a specific engagement and so on. So, so there's coding stuff, there's technical stuff, and then there's the people stuff, and the empathy stuff and so on. Now, this obviously takes a long time to develop, just like the technical skills. People are very conscious and very looking towards other people and say, you are so good at this. Do you ever fail? Have you ever failed? Because this is just great. You're a great technical person, or you're a great people hacker, or anything else. Have you ever failed before?
I mean, yes, in lots of things. We all fail. I mean, certainly, from an academic perspective, I have my strengths and the weaknesses, and there's a reason that I'm not a technical person. I found that very difficult to understand the numbers side of things and everything, the maths. I had my school and the classes that were in were like, if you can imagine giving a load of monkeys some, Class A drugs and then throwing us all into a classroom and locking the door. That was what my maths lessons were like. Because our teacher was lovely, but he had no discipline. And I can't blame that because plenty of people came out of that environment and went on to do other things. But for me, I couldn't focus on something I didn't enjoy and I wasn't naturally good at. So, I was always terrible at those types of things, where I was good at other things, which meant they never gave me help with the things I was bad at because I was top of the class in, other areas. And what can you do, So there was those things. And then in work, I didn't come straight into the career that I have now. I always did this job. I always did social engineering on the side ever since I was really young. But I did lots of jobs that I was not cut out for, was terrible at. I made mistakes and did a million things wrong. I've worked at TV shopping channels, recruitment, a million different things. I was good at procurement and I was good in the supply chain function, but I didn't really enjoy it in the end. I liked the travel, the people. I liked some of the people I worked with, but I knew it wasn't going to be my career forever, really.
Okay.
So you do fail at things, I guess, if you put it that way. But I think the way I always look at it is I wouldn't be where I am now if I hadn't have done all those things. If I hadn't been live on a TV shopping channel, one of the things I had to do was write the technical script for vacuum cleaners. And the way they demonstrated it on the TV shopping channel was they got an ashtray full of rubbish and soil and threw it on this white rug, and then the vacuum cleaner is supposed to clean it up and show how great it is, and it wasn't picking anything up. Now that's a fail. And they say to me, Jenny, what do we say? And I'm going, it's supposed to pick the soil up. What do you say? It was a crap vacuum cleaner. We were trying to sell it at overprice.
Well,
So I'm going to
yeah,
say, say it obviously works better on dry soil. I don't know what I said, but that was rubbish, and I got severely reprimanded
okay,
for being rubbish at
yeah,
that.
yeah. So a good takeaway then would be things like, if you don't succeed at first, maybe look at doing something else, or just keep trying, because
I think if you fail at something that you hate, then maybe think about doing something else.
yeah,
But if you
yeah,
fail at something that you love, you need to sit back, analyze what happened, and try and fix that next time. Because if you love it, you'll work hard to get it right. But
yes,
if you fail, if you're saying to yourself, I failed at this, and you hated it anyway, I mean, I'm never going to be the right person for a TV shopping channel, really. I might be now if there's any, burglar alarm companies who'd like an ambassador or something. Then I
nudge,
would be
nudge, wink,
great at it
wink.
now. Just saying, got to hustle. But yeah, I was never going to be behind the scenes as some sort of home appliance buyer. It just paid at the time.
Yeah.
So
So, so that's that's really insightful, because there's a lot of stuff that I failed at as well. So even in technical terms, there have been techniques I've been trying to get right, and sometimes it took like a year to get it way it working, that it just looks like super slick. It just works absolutely fabulous. And then when you do that, demonstrations at very high level meetings, sometimes in a volatile environment, in a sense that you are speaking to the MOD, you're speaking to other agencies, and so on. So they have this exception, and or perception rather, and it's like, right, have I sacrificed enough to the demo gods that everything is going to work perfectly right? And and usually it does. And then when they come and ask you, say, right, about your thing, can you teach this over a couple of days to a couple of folks? And it's like,
yeah,
I can show them what to do, but they're not going to be good at it at all, because it takes such a long time of trying to get this. There's no instant fix for this. And I think sometimes when organizations try to create the social engineering awareness within their staff, they think it's like, okay, great. What we can do is we can do a quick phishing test and see how everybody's doing.
yes,
And as a staff member of the company, it's like, my life is difficult enough, and now this is
yes,
in the mix as well.
yeah.
Is there better ways of just doing the good old phishing exercise, rather than well, is there anything else you can do other than the good old phishing exercise, or does it still have a place?
I mean, it has a place. I mean, I forget the statistic now, but like so much malware is introduced through emails. I've got technical security professional mates who would rather email didn't exist, and they're quite serious about it. They're trying to think of alternatives to email, because of it. So I think you have to do phishing campaigns, and you have to educate staff on it constantly. But excuse me, as you say, it's just not the be all and end all. What you have to think about is it's not so much can you spot a phishing email, because there's so many ways that we can make a phishing email convincing that you might spot 150 of them and 151 gets passed. I think it's more about teaching a mentality, a mindset for people. We need to think about making people aware in a non-scary way, but by saying that, I mean they do need to know the truth.
Yeah.
Okay, so we need to teach people like grown-ups. We need to teach people what this stuff can actually do. But it's more of a mindset of there are people out there who will use your information to get to you and your family, and certainly to get to the business, right? So we need to teach people that exists, and that hacking that they may have heard of in the popular culture or in cinema or whatever This is what it entails, and this is the type of thing that you can do to make yourself more difficult as a target. You can make yourself a hard target. And we need to teach people that with the view that they can take that and build what we give them, right? So we can give them the basics as security professionals and we can tell them how it works and what to look out for. But the real success and awareness programs is for then the people within the organization to really get excited about it and for them to start looking out for things. And this is where I have a massive advantage over anyone who isn't a social engineer, because social engineering is the gateway drug to security. And I've got a blog coming up on it. But we are, because you can, social engineering sounds very kind of sexy and it sounds very, well, it does. It depends how you say it, but you can say it in a very sexy way. People can imagine fraudsters and people on the end of the phone trying to con you out of money and trying to steal off old ladies and breaking into buildings. And your average person in a company really is far more interested in kind of Ocean's 11 type of thing than they are in us telling them about some virus or something that's going to, WannaCry or something like that. That's just, they can't picture it. And it's really about coming back to what you said at the beginning. It's about giving a good story. It's about engaging people. It's about empathy. So I was on a call this morning and I said, explain more to me and to the people listening what you mean by this technical term, because I know as a non-techie, when I start hearing, alphanumerics just being fired out, I've switched off already. You need to give them something to picture to get them engaged, and then your people will do the work for you. That's how you get an army on board, right? But I just saw today, Kerry, honestly, I saw an article, and it was actually an internal memo that's somehow online, which is a huge security problem anyway. And it's like, it's a memo to all staff of a place in America, and it says annual cybersecurity training. And it actually says, this is the same training as you had last year, but on a different platform. This training must be completed by Thursday night or whatever. Is a click-through training and should not take more than 15 minutes. This is mandatory.
Oh.
Thank you. Now, no one in that company is going to do anything other than switch it on, click through, and go, oh, thank God, that's over with. Yep. And you know what? Next year, they'll get the same cybersecurity training. And between now and then, they'll probably be hacked and phished a million times because nobody cares, nobody's looking out for it, and nobody's engaged in really what's the exciting part of the industry for normal people, And so I see myself as just a normal person that can explain that quite well. And I think that's what we all need to try and do. Get people to see how exciting this can be, because that helps them be part of our defense.
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, we have to do different ways of doing things at the moment, because there are certain complacent ways of doing it and so on. Now, you mentioned Ocean's 11, so yes, so and we can see from the movies and everything else that it takes a long planning and and the internal politics between people and so on, and that they all work it out. Mm-hmm. One of the things I just want to catch your opinion on. So, for example, take the Catch Me If You Can movies. They are fantastic, and they're all absolutely brilliant. But they're not entirely a work of fiction at all. They're actually based on a real person. And that person, Frank Abagnale, started, well, after he was caught and went to jail and everything else, started a very successful program in the FBI in doing that. And his story is absolutely fascinating to follow through and everything else. And he was played by Leonardo, right? So when your movie comes out, who's going to be you? Who do you want you to be?
Well, it's difficult, isn't it? Because obviously, you think, well, it needs to be someone who could do a Scouse accent. I mean, imagine how awful it would be if it was some... if it was some really beautiful sort of Hollywood actress with an American accent, it wouldn't be realistic, would it? It has to be someone who's sort of English and preferably Northern. I mean, it's hard to imagine. I mean, there are people, you sometimes think, oh, I think she'd be really good. I think Sheridan Smith would be really good. But I mean, I should be so bloody lucky. But, she would. I think you need a good actress because she did Cilla Black and she was quite good with the Scouts. But it's interesting what you say about, I mentioned Ocean's 11. And it's not because, and I say it in keynotes, it's not because me and the people I bring onto a job with me are remotely like Ocean's 11. I mean, that's what, if I try and explain it to the public, they think, oh, is that a bit like sort of a less good looking version of Ocean's 11? And so like, no, but the concept of a team with different skills working together to do a job is realistic, and I did that for a long time, and we still sort of train it now, because mostly that came because I couldn't do any computing, so I needed a techie, and then I got a bit older and a bit fatter, and I needed someone who was better at climbing than me. So we worked with a parkour guy who was great for a while. He doesn't do it anymore. He's all legit now. So there was a few people, and I think, like you say, so it's something that catches the imagination if it's done well, and then we can bring people to reality and say, it's not really like that. A lot of the time it's hiding in cupboards. A lot of the time it's running away from security guards. I think what I love when you mentioned Frank Abagnale was, he really wasn't a technical hacker either, but he did things in a way that I really admired: the ingenuity, the tactical adaptation. So getting a uniform from a dry cleaner's. Now, we go to, like, back then, that was a good way to do it. Now, unfortunately, you can buy uniforms on eBay and places like that. I was interviewing an American social engineer whose name is Snow for my show. And we were giggling because I've got a wardrobe full of like fast food and delivery uniforms. Why? I don't really use them. Like, I'm not going to hack a McDonald's, so why do I have a McDonald's crew uniform? And anyway, they change it every couple of months, by the way. Oh. So, but it's just that silly thing. But like when Frank Abagnale did it, he was so amazing, because what he said was, I want to be the type of person who can walk through anywhere and do anything. I want to travel without paying, and I want to gain respect. And to be fair, he wanted female attention, and he saw that the people who got that were people like doctors and pilots, and so that's what he pretended to be. And it was also a brilliant, in a way, it brings us back around to what you were saying earlier about sort of failure and confidence. Confidence is king there. And it just showed you that he didn't actually have to do a lot of the work he was claiming to do. He didn't have to do the surgery because there were other people around him that did that and picked up the slack. And he didn't have to fly the plane because there was a co-pilot and there were other people as well. And so whilst I'm not saying that faking something like that is good, that was very dangerous what he did and criminal, and he saved his time for it. But it does show you that you don't have to be perfect and that people will support you.
Yeah.
And I always take that lesson. If you can kind of look and sound like you belong, people will at least, see, set you up for that and admire that in one sense. And, to a wider degree, they might even help you out. So that's what I would see from that.
Okay. Well, it's been a fairly whirlwind talk there. So, and as we trying to go forward, we are going to be trying to sort of move from the fantasy world to the reality world, in terms of, there's amazing skilled people that's going to try and influence our folks. And if we had to start making this change to make ourselves more aware, do we start at the board level? Do we do this as a business level? Or is it a thing that we actually grow the culture within the organization? And you mentioned that a bit of that earlier on. So and I think it's a great thing to create a culture, a security culture within an organization, to say, I am not going to be scared. I'm going to be okay with looking at an email and finding out if it's a phishing email, or I'm going to listen to a phone call. It might be really busy, but I'm going to listen and see if I can identify some of the techniques, or employ some of that techniques to help keep us safe. And thank you so much for all of that. Now, there's a section here on safe stories. You've sprinkled some all throughout the whole afternoon. Is there some other safe stories you want to mention, or is it the case of, oops, no, I've got NDAs against things like that?
I have NDAs against some things. And a lot of the time, people say, "Oh, you tell good stories and good." Well, the job gives me those stories. That's why. It's. I think the key to doing that actually is just remembering something and saying that might be a good story. And for example, I interviewed a guy on my podcast a little while ago called Ted Harrington. He's a hacker from America, but a very kind of famous one, because his company was the first company to ever hack the first iPhone.
Okay.
Which Apple weren't great, like mega happy about or anything. But he's written this book called Hackable, and I was interviewing him. And anyway, he's got a story about he went to Pamplona and did the running of the bulls.
Okay,
and
scary.
So he's got this analog anecdote in his book about that, and saying it's a bit like Risk. And I was giggling and he's a brilliant writer. It's a great book and it's sold very well. But I said to him, did you think in the middle of running away from that bull, if I ever get out of this, I'm going to turn that into an anecdote for next time I'm interviewed or for a keynote? Because if you speak in public, whenever anything happens, you kind of go, oh, this is actually, security is a little bit like pizza. Or what, which made me think about that time. And I sometimes say I do want to retire and open a bar where I'll teach people to be social engineers in the winter, and then the summer I'll be near enough to the ocean just to surf and to bore everyone to death, sitting at the end of the bar, giving you all the stories that I couldn't say and I couldn't write down of all those social engineering exploits that I've done. So, maybe we stick around and wait for me to be at a bar one day telling you some of the others. But there's always a million stories. I mean, it's social engineering, right?
Yeah.
If you're a burglar, you've got a story. Even if you do nothing else except just burglarize places. But I only do it if I'm asked, legitimately.
Okay. Yeah, no, but thank you so much for joining on this episode today. And it's been really fantastic. And we've covered a whole bunch of things in terms of special techniques and things that we can help us to try and get our point across. And if things go a bit wrong, we should maybe practice a little bit more, and and everything else. And it's fantastic. So we've got a couple of young starts in the office, and they are busy learning all these kind of things. And so we have a wonderful lady in the office, Judy King. So she's very active in trying to learn all these things. And then we have David Manuel, and he runs his own podcast as well, WeeGcast. So it's also on security and everything.
I know WeeGcast. I've heard WeeGcast.
Yeah. But they're all very keen new infosecers. Now, and I use the term new quite loosely, because they've got a fantastic experience in moving things forward and learning from old dinosaurs like myself.
And myself.
Before
I see. Yeah, I mean, one of the things I see a lot of, and I think has gained a lot of traction, is that these days people, even we always talk about the techie people and then the social engineers, the technical ones and the people, and where do the two meet and what do we do? But actually, I see with a lot of people coming through and into the business that they're interested in both, okay, and that it's no longer these silos of you're either good with the humans or you're good with the tech. You can be both, and if you are both, I think you've got a really promising career ahead of you, and it can be an interesting career. So, I stumbled into this really. I was I mean, I'm not going to tell the whole story of how I started again because I'm sure people are bored to death of it. I mean, I say it all the time. But yeah, I was shown sort of physical infiltrations by kind of mischievous, shall we say, members of my family who just were getting in and out, urban exploration. And then gradually sort of, I quite enjoyed studying and I had a good memory then. I don't have it now, Kerry, but and I could remember sort of psychology and past exams and things quite easily. So I kind of learned all of that. But now what I see is, even though I think there is a woeful lack of soft skills education paired up with technical education, I don't see it on very many degree programs. They might get a day on social engineering. I don't see good modules, solid modules. And I can correct that if anyone wants to contact me about it from universities or sponsor me from business. We can correct that. I have a curriculum. But what I do see is that youngsters and people new to the business study it anyway. So they'll have watched Ocean's 11, they'll have watched Catch Me If You Can, they'll have read the books. You know, they maybe listen to my podcast or other podcasts from social engineers, because I think it's an exciting part of the business and it's good to have two sides of this coin, right? You know, the people side of it's such a different pace and a different skill set than the technical side that it gives us a break. If you're busy studying for one of your exams, for a qualification for ethical hacking or something like that, it's nice to then maybe pivot now and again and think a little bit more about psychology of phishing as opposed to writing the email. And so I like that. I think that's a really positive thing in the industry. And you do it so well. And at your company, you bring all the human stories. I mean, you tell me about telling all the anecdotes, but you know, Carrie's been on my show and is coming up soon, and you have stories about it. And those stories, what bit do we remember of the stories? We remember the human side, the way people acted, and the way that sometimes we manage to do some real good in this industry. And that's really, I'd encourage people really to look at all aspects of the job, because it can be tremendous fun and you can do an awful lot of good. And you're not just a technical person or a people person anymore. You can be both. There's lots out there trying to help you do that.
Yeah, and you know, and talking about the lots of different people helping me to do this, you know, I couldn't do this with my co-pilot Kevin, who puts together all of the shows and, you know, making sure that everything works and tells me, don't touch this, it'll break. And yeah, I'm supposed to be the technical guy, but Kevin is the perfectionist that makes everything work. And you know, together with Ahmed in our team as well, making just sure that all the wheels are greased and everything just runs very smoothly. So it is, but yeah, all these things.
And we were saying that before, weren't we? We were saying it before we came on air about we need people with different skills.
Yes.
Because your attackers have different skills, right? So, you know, criminals have they don't care. They're kind of a diversification. No, they employ diverse people, if you like, criminals and organized crime, if you see what I mean. They're not bothered what gender you are or if you're neurodiverse or anything like that, in the way that we sometimes feel that legitimate businesses perhaps don't do so well at. Criminals just want, if you can do the job you're in, believe me, you're in. That's really all they're focused on, is results. And I sometimes think that's, I actually put a post on LinkedIn today, which was about deception in the Second World War, and that they used actors and artists and magicians to put a deception campaign against the Nazis. The Allies used that, and they played a real part. And I said, it's about a diverse skill set. It's about using your imagination, innovation, a bit of cheek, you know. And it's still the case today that that's always required. We need lots of different types of people. And, you know, if you're not the most confident speaker, there are some tools, there are things that we can teach you to help you. And as you said earlier, experience and practice is always key in anything.
Yeah.
But there's a place for you. We don't need an industry full of extroverts. We need an industry full of lots of different types of people from different backgrounds. And I spoke to you a while ago about trying to encourage people from Scotland to get into cyber, because we need, and I would say the same thing from the northwest, you know, from Liverpool and the northwest of England. It's good to have people from different backgrounds, and it's not the closed shop that it used to be. You can come in with a range of competencies and a range of backgrounds, and it's welcome and it's needed to fight against the people that we're really trying to stop. It's cybercrime. We need the same diversity on the defence side.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. And and the more diverse in terms of skills and people and we have, it'll make for a very good environment and so on. And we can all learn and build on this and become truly, truly exceptional professionals. And it doesn't matter which part you fill in, be it technical, be it psychology, be it, just whatever. There is a space for you. And this is what we've been trying to get through this whole week. It's about InfoSec has a space for you. There is a space. It's just a matter of just finding the right space.
There's millions of spaces if you believe the skills gap. There's millions of spaces, and it's a growing industry, It really is. And over 2020, cybercrimes soared, social engineering crimes have soared. We need good people who are passionate. We can teach the skills, any of the skills, but what we need is people with the work ethic and the desire to be in the industry and contribute. That's what we need.
Well, thank you very, very, very much for this super, super, super day for today. It's been an amazing.
It was my pleasure.
It's been absolutely amazing. So, and yeah.
No,
and
I love chatting to you, Kerry. I do, and I think Cyber Scotland Week's a really, really good event and initiative. I was really happy to take part.
Oh, thank you so much. And guys, remember the video will be available on YouTube. And until we take it down, which we'll probably won't, unless Jenny says, "Please take down my video." So the video shall be on there. So if you've missed this fabulous episode with Jenny, it's available to watch on YouTube, in all the different formats and so on. So thank you very much again, Jenny, and thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you for asking me. It's been a pleasure.